Okay, it's 6 o'clock. We'll get started. I entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes of December 14th, regular select board meeting.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Is there any discussion about the minutes from that meeting? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. All right, we have some additions and deletions. Under correspondence, there's a letter from a resident. Under annual report, there's a addition to section 9, the printing of the annual report. There's another letter from a resident reference to sidewalk dispute, and a letter from the snowmobile club requesting access to certain roads to cross. I think this is something we dealt with last year. Okay. Anything else that anybody has got that you'd like to bring forward for additions? Okay. All right. Next, we have members of the public, and this is Lynne Shea, who's with us on Zoom. And Lynne, did you have anybody else?
Stephanie Amyat is here with us as well. Okay. She's been involved in this process.
Okay. Just so the rest of the board knows, we were contacted by Ms. Shea about getting the process for renaming Negro Brook restarted. One of the caveats that I made when she had asked for our opinion was that unless Charlie Marchant was involved in it and his opinion was part of this situation, you'd have to definitely go through town meeting and an article to get it done. I'm assuming that you're here to give us an update of where you're at and what you want to do, and then I'll add in what Charlie has told me afterwards.
Sure.
Can everybody hear?
Well, good evening, everybody. Essentially there's a small group of local residents who wanted to restart this process. So we've actually been meeting for quite a while, and our first step was actually to reach out to Charlie. I'm not going to revisit the events since 2019 on this process of trying to rename Negro Brook. I wasn't directly involved for that amount of time. I'm just a Townshend resident who is interested in helping move this forward. And so we've actually met with Charlie multiple times, and our perspective was that, as the State Board of Libraries has indicated, they would really like a unifying petition. In other words, any change in this name really should be coming from the residents of Townshend. And so the goal here is to really have a process that's inclusive so that we understand what the majority would like moving forward. So our goal is to follow up with the Historical Society and with you, the Select Board, to hopefully unify in trying to change the name of this brook, which it seems from recent meetings or in the past, everyone agrees it should change, but disagreement on the process going forward. So that's kind of our goal, and we're just looking for input here. It would be helpful to have the support of the Select Board in moving this forward, or to hear how you would like to proceed, because again, this is a small group of individuals. They're all local, and we're willing to do the work and to move the petition forward with the Board of Libraries. So that's essentially the goal. Looks like Stephanie would like to add something.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Lynne, I wondered if you might just briefly share what you've learned about what the Board of Libraries process is. Can you say a little bit more about that?
Sure. So essentially, there's a petition process, and that's pretty straightforward. You can get 25 people to sign in agreement with a petition to change the name of, in this case, a brook, a stream. The state has very specific rules around geographic naming. For example, the Agency of Transportation would have would be in charge of roads and streets. So the Board of Libraries is actually the entity that makes decisions around geographic naming that has to do with, as I said, rivers, brooks, natural resources, that sort of thing. They're looking for support from the local area. And from my perspective, just speaking for myself, it seems that it was a failed process last time because there wasn't local support or sufficient local support, and there was some poor communication, or it was felt there was poor communication. So, in terms of the guidelines, it's, they're looking to, their preference is for looking at historic persons, or names that are associated with the state of Vermont, historical persons, flora, fauna, or obviously names that have been in use that are, have been used in practice but are not registered officially, that there's an agreed upon consensus that that's the name that should be used. So essentially, the typical process is to get letters of support from a local historical society, the select board, and from members of indigenous people from the area, to kind of cover bases to see if, again, locally there's agreement on the process.
Okay. I'll share with the board my conversation with Charlie just this morning. He is in favor of this particular group's petition, as long as it is historically accurate to people that were here. If it's an individual or a pair of individuals in this particular case, the process that occurred before, that particular person was not somebody who was active in Townshend, didn't fit the criteria, but her husband and herself together are, and he would be in favor of name change as long as it follows that kind of provision, unless something else comes up. So does anybody have any questions for them as they're moving forward? Go ahead, Steve.
Yes, could you please explain to me what the petition process will be this time around?
Did you hear?
So the petition process is to put forward a name, to essentially gather signatures of 25 residents of Townshend and gather letters of support and send it to the Board of Libraries. We're not in a particular rush. In other words, we really do want to hear from the rest of the Historical Society and from the Select Board. And as I said, our first initiative was to talk to Charlie and say, Charlie, what do you recommend? What are the names that you recommend? And Charlie has indicated that he would be in support of naming this brook after both James and Susanna Huzzy. So that's where we're at, but we're interested in hearing from you.
I think.
In other words, we want support from the town.
That's the basis of my question is, how are you going to obtain the 25 signatures you're looking for? Is it going to be in a public place for people to fill out their name, address, and signature, or is it going to be by invitation only?
We haven't gotten that far, because we're not rushing that process. I think that what we would do is choose a public location. It's a location that's COVID safe and, that would be accessible to people who are interested or have access to it. So that would, if you have suggestions, that would be wonderful to hear.
One of the failures of before was there were very few on that petition from Townshend. we honestly, if you're asking for the Townsend Board of Selectmen support, it needs to be more than 5 or 6 or whatever people from Townsend, and not people from South Burlington and Montpelier, and it's Townsend you're asking for. I know you're not required. I know that the state, the way this process works, it's not required to get our support. But honestly, from my perspective, and the rest of the board can chime in, if the petition that comes up doesn't involve a majority of Townsend residents, you're not going to see much of any support here. Okay? So we don't, honestly,
that's why we're here.
We don't represent Brattleboro, Newfane, Jamaica, Wardsboro, South Burlington. We represent Townsend. And again, that, from my perspective, would be the key. Any other input about that? Well, okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that our group already had decided that, we only need 25 signatures. Certainly there could be more, but we were already planning on making sure that the 25 signatures were of Townsend residents.
It would be
we
better
have a
if
separate petition if other people want to sign, but
it would be better if you got more, but 25 is ample for the requirement. It's just being around here. That was one of the failings of last time.
And I would suggest posting it publicly, like anywhere publicly, of when and where and what it is about. Just to get as much of a balanced representation.
One idea that we had was potentially to just having a Townsend resident bring it to town meeting and offer it for people at town meeting to sign if they would like to, could talk about it at the end of town meeting under other business and potentially sign it there. What does the select board think of that possibility?
It's not something that we can and would object to. And many people bring petitions there. You might want to start that process like at Riverbend, asking them if you can have a table out front or something like that. It really needs to be a town effort, so we hear from the people of this town where they want to go. Okay? That's what you're going to need to do to get that kind of support. Any other input? Ideas for them?
I mean, typically in the past, petitions have been put at Riverbend for residents to read, sign if they wish. But again, it's a signature. It's a printed name, a signature, and an address.
Right.
So, you can get an article into town meeting, and what that does for you is, and I know we've had this discussion before, it allows it to be heard, at least heard through the first time and be a debate, but it has to be a directed thing that you're voting for something. It can't be just an informational thing. If you don't choose to do that and ask to speak at town meeting, you can be voted down. It can be not allowed to move forward on just the floor. So those are things to take into consideration.
Yes, absolutely.
Sorry, can I ask a question about that, Sherwood? I want to make sure I understand. So you're saying if we were not officially on the town meeting agenda, we could potentially ask at town meeting whether we could speak on the matter informally? Is that, and then the town could either decide yes or no? Is that what you're saying?
There's the last section of the meeting for bringing business that's pertinent to the town. Now, the rest of the town does not have to hear that, does not have to listen to that. They don't have to allow you to speak. Whereas, if you have an article built into town meeting where there's a vote, and the vote can be simply to ask the select board to support this, or that this town supports this, but there has to be a yes or no vote associated with an article. If you're speaking other business, it's at the will of the people that are there whether they're going to listen to you or not.
Does Townsend allow just announcements at the end of town meeting. I just wondered if that would be an appropriate space where, because Charlie Marchant did say to us that he was willing to speak at town meeting and just talk and just say that we're going to be having this petition and, you know, why he supports it. Is that something that could work as just an announcement at the end? And then if people wanted to sign it on their way out, they could?
Yeah,
or no?
I would say yes. I don't think he'd send you down the wrong path, and he's done it before, so. Not sent anybody down the wrong path, but he's spoken there on different issues before.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other comments for them? Any other suggestions for them? Okay, that's about all we have unless you have something else.
No, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Take care now.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to correspondence. Now, we have members of the public here. Were you looking to speak tonight?
Not necessarily. I think you're going to be looking at, we're talking about, we sent some correspondence in.
Okay, is this about the
Sidewalk.
sidewalk?
Yes.
Okay, so why don't you give us your name so it's in the record and it's recorded,
Okay.
and tell us what the issue is.
Okay. My name's Peter Goldberg. I'm from 2139 Route 30. This is my wife, Jean, and the issue is that the occupant of 2111 Vermont Route 30 has been putting snow in the town sidewalk, blocking the sidewalk, and he's also put, at Halloween, he had blocked the street with a bunch of large stones that I think were part of a stone wall, and made it very difficult, if not impossible, for the school children to come across from Townsend Elementary School to use the crosswalk and then use the sidewalk to get to the library. It makes it difficult for senior citizens to walk up and down that stretch of the sidewalk because it's currently blocked. And we feel that it's, the town has an ordinance against that, there's a state law against that, and we were just looking for some indication of support or something that, is there anything the town can do about that?
Okay. I've got your letter, just since I go through this acre of paperwork. There we go. Now you talk about the town ordinance, the winter maintenance ordinance. The first issue that there is about this is that this was written in 2013. A lot of things have changed since 2013. So in order to make that an enforceable action, we need to make sure that that ordinance is actually actionable. So that's the first thing. With the last time that he put the rocks in the walkway there, in the sidewalks, to ask the state police to deal with it, and they did. They went up there, and that's why they got moved. Now this town does plow the sidewalks all the way through that area, but we'll take under advisement your request for sand and salt. Okay, we got to figure that part of it out. Let's see. Yes, this gentleman, when he does things like this, is a public nuisance, but unfortunately, there's not a lot you can do about somebody that just wants to be a nuisance. Let's see. And
we can't do a much
we can't,
about it.
right.
You can.
Does the state police matter?
Well,
You can call the
we'll
state
go knock on the
police.
door.
I'd like to make a motion that we research that this ordinance can be used and then issued if it is usable.
Well, hold on, just let me
Against-
finish, and then I think that's a good idea. Let me just finish with what we're talking about here. When you say ask removing winter from the ordinance to make it clear, we can't do that. The ordinance was promulgated on a winter, and it's specific in there, so we can't just change the name. We'd have to actually write an entire new ordinance and have it voted on, cleared through lawyers, things like that. Sometimes with people, you ask about dealing with it swiftly. Unfortunately, swift is not something that we can do because of the legal obligations we have. While people like this have a tendency to just thrive on attention, both positive and negative attention, we need as a body to be careful what we do to make sure that we're not. Basically, what I do not want to do is pay this guy because we made a mistake in a civil action.
I agree.
Okay, so, while we have all your information, and we certainly need to look into the enforceability of the current ordinance, unfortunately, I can't give you a positive answer on any of this right now. We have it, we're looking at it, we'll see what we can do with it. And as you heard, she wants to put it on the record to follow up on this, so go right ahead.
I just would like to make you folks aware, I go to the post office every day, and with the situation in front of 2111 right now, the snow has not been removed by whoever nicely comes down with some kind of driving machine. I guess it's the town highway. And now it's frozen solid chunks. So there's no way I can even climb over that safely and walk on the slippery sidewalk in front of 211.
Well, I will tell you, I was there today,
Yep.
and I took these photographs this afternoon.
Oh.
And I actually walked that, and that stuff has softened up, and we'll deal with getting that out of there. But the other concern is this something that he actually did this particular time, or is this a result of some other, like clearing that driveway? It looks like that clearing that driveway may have caused that stuff to roll up into the sidewalk. Who plows the driveway? You have the house, the long
With a long curved driveway.
curved
The owner's
driveway.
house.
With the candy canes?
Yes, with the candy.
That's us.
How do you clear that? Do you pay somebody to clear it, or do
We
you?
take care of that ourselves, either with, depending on the depth of the snow shovel or a small snow machine.
It just looked to me like it was all curled up, like it was pushed that way with a plow. So I'm curious if he did this particular thing, why he did it there and not the whole length like he usually does when he goes on a, so.
I think he was having a tantrum and he was not happy with where the property line actually is. He claims he knows where that property line is. We've engaged a surveyor to tell us exactly where it is.
Okay, that's why you put the map in your letter.
The map is in there because according to the map we have and we were given, the property line is 7 feet away from the driveway and 3 feet in from the sidewalk. And that's not where he thinks the property line is. He thinks it's at the corner of the driveway and the sidewalk.
I plowed that driveway for years, and when he first bought it, that was his complaint. And Mike and Molly Colson owned it before that, and they didn't have a problem with it for the whatever amount of years I plowed it before that. So this is an ongoing situation of him wondering where his boundary is.
Right.
Just before we became owners, he told me himself that he doesn't care for the town highway because they ruined his wall in front of his house and they put the snow on his yard. And I think he's angry with the highway department.
I think
Not
Mother
us.
Nature brought the snow.
Anger is, it can be placed in all different directions. The other
The
thing,
current buildup is there because you can also see that the grass is clear behind it. That he's done that, I believe, by either standing there and shoveling it or just kicking it into the road.
okay.
Or into the
Have you ever
wall.
seen him do this stuff?
I've not seen him do that where,
Well, we have some eyewitnesses to
Okay.
this stuff.
I've
Steve,
seen,
is this something that you can get out of there, clear that walkway?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you do us a favor and scoop it up and take it with you?
Yes.
Because if we take away his ammunition, then he's gonna have to truck it in on his little wagon.
So that's what we can do for you tonight. We will, the other question we have to settle is this particular piece of property or this sidewalk is on state highway. This is all state highway. Somewhere there is permission for us to build this sidewalk if we built it. We need to find out the history of this before there's a lot that can be done long-term. So as soon as we
our
have,
house too is the same,
yeah,
our sidewalk.
that's it. That
it's
will-
all state highway all through there.
Because this side was redone in 2008 or 9 maybe,
Okay.
and the other side was not. But
No, that's our biggest question
Yeah.
about this, is like I said, we want to have legal standing to be able to do what we're going to do.
and we fully appreciate that. Anything you can do to talk to the state and find out, whose sidewalk is it and the history of it, so we know what's the right direction to take on this. We also want to, basically identify and make sure that you knew there wasn't us that's just leaving a mess on the sidewalk for the highway department to clean up after us.
When we get the survey done officially, we're gladly going to record it and share it with you folks too, of our property.
Recording it is always good,
Yeah.
in case this comes up later on.
Thank
We'll follow up on it. Allison, we can do a motion, or we can just take it as regular advisement to do the work behind it. So it's up to you whether you want to present that motion now, or just leave it to staff to get the...
I think we should make something happen because this is the second time.
Oh, it's
And
more than
it's-
that. It's more than that.
Well, that's been reported to me while I've been on the board, so I just like want to make a change happen, that's all. And do the research to see if we can issue the
Okay, well, it's
ordinance.
up to you. You had the request for a motion, so if you want to make that motion, it can go forward and be voted on, or like I said, it can be taken under advisement, and we'll get it done through what we're to do anyways.
Okay,
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to do the research to uphold this request for ordinance and make sure that we can use this to remediate the issue regarding the location on Route 30.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, 5-0. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for sending this out to us. We'll take care of getting that stuff off the sidewalk, and we'll work out the details about sanding and salting.
Thank you.
Okay?
Appreciate it.
Take care now. You're welcome to stay if you'd like.
Yeah, we enjoy local governments.
Okay, so let's move down to the correspondence again. And this one is over the signs and stuff next door. I have read through this. Unfortunately, there is not a lot that the town can do about somebody posting on their own property what they want to say. I've gone through this a couple of times. I will reread it when my head is not buzzing with all kinds of facts and figures. But the person did not want to come and present the information to us. She presented it as anonymous. We do know who it is. So this is not, this is not just something somebody threw into the mix to stir things up. They really have a concern to the point where they're concerned for their safety.
But the part about the anonymous is, I don't feel is proper. I don't like the part of anonymous. We've had it happen before on this board, and it's been people making things up, which I don't think this is made up, but my point is that it'd be nice when people present things to put their name with it, and that way it has a set of legs.
The way that this person originally wanted it read aloud, and I said no. I said that it will be presented to the board members, it'll be on record, but if there's nobody coming forward to give the information so that we can ask questions, that we can review it properly, then all we can do with it is just put it in the official file and move forward. I mean, unfortunately, there's nothing about what she has written, she's put on those signs that is illegal. You have the constitutional right to act like a fool. And there's nothing anybody can do about it. So, yeah, it's a hard thing to do, but we can't make laws that go against the Constitution or the Constitution of the state of Vermont. We just don't have that authority, and essentially, that's what it would be. There's no enforcement action we can take. Okay?
But also a civilian could go up and talk to her about that, right?
There's nothing stopping anybody from going other than the threat to their own potential safety. There's nothing stopping anybody from going and making those approaches. The problem becomes when government does it, you have to be extraordinarily careful how far you take it. And I think the letter that we put through last time pretty much puts our position on record as to what we feel about those things.
Excuse me, where are your records kept? We're new in town, so.
Well, the majority of the records for the town are kept in the town clerk's office.
All your meeting notes and letters and
Yeah,
so
all of that stuff is on file, so it's open to the public. Okay? All right, let's see, we've done with that. I think we've done with those extras. Rob, go ahead with the warrants.
Make a motion to pay the warrants, starting with number 1, payroll, in the amount of $14,686.74. Number 2, payroll tax, in the amount of $6,513.17. Number 3, general fund, in the amount of $12,827.96. Number 4, general fund, in the amount of $338.67. Number 5, general fund, the amount of $450.94. Highway fund, in the amount of $12,029.68. Highway fund, in the amount of $2,369.58. Highway equipment, in the amount of $1,237.02. And highway equipment, in the amount of $2,023.25. For a total of $52,477.01.
Okay, so we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion about the warrants? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of paying check warrants 1 through 9 totaling $52,477.01 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. All right, Steve?
The town was awarded a paving grant from V-Trans for this coming year in the amount of $100,000. We have $105,000 in our paving budget for this coming year. That'll allow us to finish the remainder 1.65 miles of Windham Hill, and there'll be enough left over to do Island Road, which is right at the bottom of the hill. So we did get a grant for paving for next year for $100K. And we had a nice storm over Christmas weekend. We did use a bit of sand. We did have a lot of sanding on the dirt roads, and looking for a repeat possibly this coming weekend. Stay tuned.
Okay, any questions for Steve? All right, we'll move on. Treasurer's report. Treasurer's reporting $640,000, there we go, $640,308.91 in the municipal investment fund, and $30,000 in the checking account.
So is there a reason why we didn't have a school payment on the last warrant?
That's a good question.
The money's
I'm not
gone.
sure. I'm not sure. We'll have to find out. Let me ask. Yeah, that's kind of overdue. That was kind of overdue, I thought. Okay, town clerk's report. I don't believe she provided us anything this time around. And I have nothing special to go over with today. Let's see. We have figured out the department budgets and have put them down. I don't have the information right here. We have a couple more things to check into to be able to vote on approving the budget, but essentially we went up over last year 3.9%. Now with the surplus that we're going to apply, it's actually going to bring us down substantially. But those numbers need to be finalized.
What's that put the tax rate at?
That's what I've got to get the finalization with the surplus. I don't have that yet. As soon as I do have that, then we'll be able to vote whether this is up or down. There was a lot of things going on today, so I just didn't get that part done. And I wanted to talk to Steve about how we've done it in the past to make sure that we've got all of that information available. I would expect that you'll probably see it next meeting to vote on acceptance or rejection. Then we'll have to go back to the drawing board if we're not in agreement. There is a message in here, an email in here that has a figure on it from Brown's Printing for the town report. Brown's has done the town report at least last year, and I believe the year before that.
Brown or Howard?
Howard, excuse me. Where do they get Brown's from? Howard Printing. And they basically said that if we keep it to the same numbers as last year, 750 of the reports ordered, 56 pages including the cover, that it would only cost us 10% more than last year. Last year was $1,950. The projected for this year will be $2,145. So I'd like to entertain a motion to award the printing of the town report to Howard Printing for $2,145.
Moved.
So moved. Okay, good.
Second.
And moved and seconded. Any discussion on this? All right. Just so you all know, as a side to this, this year, Connie, Helen, and Alenka are spearheading getting the book done in a cooperative effort. So they're doing really well. They're kind of ahead of the curve so far, which is good. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Who opposed? Okay, 5-0. All right, now, snowmobile. I think we dealt with this last year. They asked us.
Sounds like for years.
Have we? Okay.
Yes.
They want Sawdust, around Sawdust Alley, Overhill Road, Peaked Mountain, Riverdale Road, Taft Road, Jordan Hill, back Wyndham Road, Deer Valley Road, Depot Road along the side of the snowbank, Acton Hill, Simpson Brook. And this is basically to allow them to cross the roads. That's what they're asking for between December 15th and April 15th. I'd entertain a motion to accept the West River Snow Goers request.
So moved.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
5-0. All right, the last thing I've got, and this is just for something for you to consider. It's in the package. It spells out what we're looking at for funds to be dedicated. These are the surplus funds to be dedicated to offsetting taxes. Now, a couple of things to point out. Right now, at least coming from Elaine, and we need to verify this number, I think, with the auditor. She's recommending keeping $20,000 in reserve for the town. I added to that $16,000 for that fire engine, that we were going to take that out of the surplus. And what's going to happen with that is, if the fire department's actual operating budget will allow it, it'll pay for the service to the truck. But because the truck, because we won't know what other things that are going to come up between now and July, when the budget's over, when the budget closes, this is why we put that amount of money, that $13,800 or whatever it was, plus shipping into the calculation. So that leaves us with like $36,000 that we should hold back. Again, that 20,000 figure I'm not quite sure of yet, but these are just things to consider. That would allow us out of the town surplus, which is at $181,000, to actually apply up to $46,000 to it. And then another one, again, I have to verify these facts and figures, especially the highway fund with Steve. But it looks like there, after the truck was purchased, there's $128,399 left over in that surplus fund, and we just need to decide how we're going to apply that to offset taxes, or if we should. So this paper is just for you to think about. There's still some more to figure out with it. So that's what we have. Is there anything else? Anybody have anything else? No? Okay. Our next meeting will be January 11th, 2022. Happy New Year to you all, and thanks for all the help and all the work that the board has done this year to trying to keep us on the straight and narrow. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
5-0.
There we go.